Well, hey everybody, John Rethlin here, and this is Hashtag Ask for Honesty, episode 21. You're going to hear a lot of big booms and everything, and a lot of fireworks going off because I'm recording this pretty much as the 4th of July is beginning, though. Out where I live, people have been lighting off fireworks for about the last 2 months because we tend to be a little freer out here. People really don't give a shit about where we live, so pretty much people can light off fireworks, and as long as they're not going to damage the roads or damage property, they're allowed to be as loud as they want. So apologies if you do hear any loud booms, but I figured since I can't sleep, why not answer your guys' terrific questions, and I really do appreciate you guys saying in so many. As I was recording episode 20, I actually got pretty much a page of questions that people had sent me, so I wrote those down, and then some good questions came in the comments. I'm going to tackle as many of them as I can. If I can't get to all of them, don't worry. I'm going to be recording episode 22 either right after this or sometime in the morning. But if you want to send a question, please leave a comment below this video. 3 to 4 questions max. Otherwise, might skip over some of the finer details, or hit me up on Twitter in DM, send the questions there, or check the pin tweets that I put up Tuesday morning and Thursday morning. Use the hashtag Ask for Honesty. Send me wrestling, music, or movie-related questions. Politics, just stick to my Twitter if you really want to find out how I feel about politics. But anyway, let's answer as many of your guys' questions as we can. Once again, I will answer what I can, but please do not worry if your questions are not answered here. They will be answered in short order. So, at A Freaky Dude on Twitter has a few questions. What is good comedy in wrestling if the 24/7 title is not it? Some people like the 24/7 title. If there are people that do, that is great. I don't think it's a good use of a lot of the talents. I give Truth, Drake, and others credit for going into it and having a whole lot of fun with it, or as much fun as they possibly can. What is good comedy in wrestling? I'll reference some people right now. There are people that don't like Taguchi's antics in New Japan. I think he can be pretty funny, but I like Toru Yano. I think he's pretty goddamn good and pretty goddamn entertaining. I find Velveteen Dream very entertaining. I'm not saying he's comedic, but I think he can do pretty well. I don't think the AEW is necessarily doing the best on comedy, but comedy in wrestling is very hit and miss. Comedy is subjective. It's like horror movies. Horror is very subjective. Some things are going to scare people more than others. Some people are going to laugh at things more than other people. Comedy in wrestling, it's very hit and miss to me. I'm not necessarily certain what makes good comedy or what doesn't. Because, again, what I think is funny is stuff that people may not find funny. And, again, some people like the 24/7 title. They get entertained by it. That's great. I do laugh at some of the stuff that goes on. I think Daniel Bryan's pretty goddamn funny despite being a full-on heel. Kevin Owens, his delivery, I think he's absolutely great. But it's really subjective. I mean, I'm sorry if that's not a very detailed answer to your question, but that's the best I can do. Question number 2. What's the best kind of heel? The shit-talking kind or the intimidating, sadistic kind? Depends on the babyface. Excuse me, right there. Depends on the babyface, depends on the company, depends on the angle that you're trying to tell. If you want to have a monster heel and somebody that's just beating down the babyface eventually comes back and can take down this big heel, that's the way to go. Sometimes that works. The shit-talking kind, the one that finally, just talks and talks and talks and gets their ass kicked eventually, at some point, it really depends on the company, it depends on the era, it depends on the match you're trying to tell, the feud that you're trying to tell. That's really what it depends on. Because often a lot of people are really, a lot of people, like, they can work well with the shit-talking heel. Some can work better with a big monster heel attacking them. Hogan always preferred big monsters. He could sell for them. He could make a comeback. He could look dominant by eventually beating them, but he could get sympathy from them. Flair was always a great shit-talking heel, but could back it up in the ring. Miz was a great shit-talking heel. MJF is a great shit-talker. It just really depends on the company and the brand. Honestly, that's what it depends on. And it depends on the territory. I mean, take a look back in the day. There are some that were just intimidating monster heels that could, or even like sadistic kinds, like they were just like basically look like killers. And it worked in some feuds and it didn't work in others. And then there were some that could just cut great promos, cut people to the bone. And it worked for those feuds. It really just depends on the dynamic of so many of the performers. That's really what it is. Question number 3. Should AEW start having a TV championship and have it compete under classic WCW rules? Eventually. Not yet. Get a few months of TV under their belt. Maybe do it around January. And the reason is, one, you would kick off things right. AEW should have no more than a world title, tag titles, a women's title. They want to have a mid-card title, like a TV title. I'm all for going back to the classic stuff. I love the TV championship. I'm talking from all the way back in the Mid-Atlantic days, Jim Crockett days. I mean, I know Jim Crockett and Mid-Atlantic Promotions kind of go hand in hand, but Mid-Atlantic, had the TV championship for a while. It morphed into a few different names, and the TV title was pretty good in a lot of WCW pay-per-views. Kind of got watered down once we got to about 96. That's where things start. Well, no, that's not necessarily true, because Benoit and Booker fought over it, and they made the TV title matter pretty much. It was a best of 7 that eventually became a best of 8. But after that, the TV title started to mean a whole lot less by, sometime like, I was going to say by the later 98, and then by 99, I mean, Hall and Nash, Hall threw it in the goddamn trash after beating Rick Steiner and becoming the US and TV champion, threw it in the trash 8 days later. And then Jim Duggan was the last TV champion by finding it in the trash as a janitor. WCW had no goddamn idea what to do with talents by that point, or even a year before. But anyway, I digress on that. I would actually be all for AEW presenting a TV championship and presenting it under classic rules. And Cody tends to get the more classic stuff while bringing stuff into the modern age. How he handles social media and other stuff like that. He actually handles that pretty goddamn well. And he understands how to promote things pretty well and to use things properly. Now, I'm not going to say Cody's perfect. And I am going to do an unpopular wrestling opinion on the Elite at some point. And also on the Click. I'm spoiling a little bit of that right here. And I'm going to have some choice words to say. I'm going to work on those eventually, and I'm going to come up with some good stuff. But anyway, as for a TV championship, eventually, but unless they suddenly want to just rocket it right when they start TV, I would get a couple months, 2-3 months of TV under their belt, and starting in January, make a TV title tournament. Not a battle royal, TV title tournament. Take 8 guys, make it like that, and just have that happen. And yes, under classic rules, make it 15 minutes per show. Not 10. Maybe 15 minutes per match. And then do the time limit stuff and then bump it up to 20 for pay-per-views or something like that. Time limit draws and that kind of stuff. Actually, I like that format. And I like it in general because it's a throwback, yet it also feels fresh, which I know sounds kind of funny. But hopefully, AEW will bring that in, but not right away. Like I said, in a few months. And then Alfredo Reyes 24. If you could have 2 serial killers, which two serial killers, like cross brand or something like that, which 2 would they be? Like in a film basically, because I kind of got asked something similar here, so I kind of wrote down the question all shitty. But 2 serial killers basically cross brand in a film. Which 2 would they be, and who would you have directed? I would almost say Eli Roth, except Eli Roth would probably find a way to put a whole bunch of bullshit in it. As far as horror director, get the guys that directed the Halloween sequel. Get them. Get the guys who wrote it and get the guy who directed. Get that crew, and I actually would be all for it. Or, because you can't have Wes Craven, dude, because unfortunately Wes Craven passed away. God, I really can't think of who. I mean, maybe John Carpenter, but I don't know if John Carpenter is going to want to step behind, and direct anything anymore at this age. It would be nice to have him do it. He could do a good throwback, but and it kind of goes back to a question I got asked, and forgive me if I can't remember who asked it, but they asked about, would I be all for a Mike Myers, Jason Voorhees, cross promotion and everything, and like just take them and just do this big old grandiose thing. I'd actually be all for that. So have Mike Myers and Jason Voorhees do it, and I don't know, Carpenter. Throw Carpenter in there, or throw the guy that directed the Halloween sequel in there, and maybe have the guys that wrote it also. I know there were some people that were divided on the Halloween, market, they felt that the Halloween sequel wasn't great. It didn't do it's like it didn't do a very good job, marketing Halloween all that well. A lot of people felt it was a mess. I liked it, but I can see why some people didn't like it. Or you get the guy that directed it. Get him. I think he could do pretty goddamn well with it, but it depends how dark you want to go. Do you want to make it comedic? Do you want to make it dark? What do you want to do? That's how I would do it. So you want to have 2 serial killers cross-promote. That would be it, because Freddy versus Jason, while fun, I think Michael Myers versus Jason would actually be the most fun. You could get into others and everything. You get like Leatherface and Freddy Krueger or something like that, or Leatherface and Jason Voorhees. But really, I would just go with Michael Myers. Well, Mike Myers would actually be interesting. Do you ever see The Love Guru? That would be a pretty disturbing character to see, in a serial killer movie there. But no, Michael Myers and Jason Voorhees, and then throw the Halloween sequel crew in there. Anyway, so we get to Jeremy 8911. What are some more horror movie stuff? Thank you. Thank you, by the way, for asking this. What are some of your lesser known 80s slasher films? Sleepaway Camp is something I think that gets forgotten about. I think Sleepaway Camp is quite good. The first one, the sequels are absolute garbage. I mean, 2 and 3 were like filmed within like 6 weeks of each other, and they were absolute garbage. Well, two had a couple moments that were okay. 3 was absolute trash. 4 was something that sat on the shelf for a while, and then they used all this old footage and this stuff and everything, and they tried to find a way to wrap it around. And the sad thing is 4 was probably the best sequel, and it was absolute trash. Sleepaway Camp is something I think that gets forgotten about. I don't know if it's so much a slasher, but Blue Sunshine. It was about a drug that got distributed that caused people to kind of go insane and everything and become killers. And I don't know if that so much belongs in the slasher category, but somebody was distributing the pills, or the drugs, so why the hell not? I actually think that would be totally fine to just call it at those. God, because Hellraiser's pretty well known. I'd say Sleepaway Camp. That's really about it. I mean, I'm trying to think of a lot. Sorority Row. No, House on Sorority Row. I mean, you get Sorority Row, but that was in 2009. My Bloody Valentine gets the 1981. I think it's 1981 or 82. I think it's 81. That one gets forgotten about as being pretty fun. I like My Bloody Valentine 3D. I like 2009 version, as I thought that was pretty good. But My Bloody Valentine is always something that I think gets forgotten about as being a pretty good slasher movie. It's not great, but it's a pretty good slasher movie. So I personally enjoy it quite a bit. I would say Sleepaway Camp, Blue Sunshine, stuff like that. I can't think of too many others because it's like the slashers. There's a lot of well-known slashers from the 80s. I mean, I think Friday the 13th 4, the final chapter. I believe that was the 4th one. Whichever one, there was a final chapter. That one, I think it's a bad rap, and it's really not that bad. It is the one where it was shown that it wasn't Jason, it was just a guy doing the killing. Yet I actually enjoyed that one. I actually thought it was pretty good. I thought it was a nice overarching story and everything. And pretty damn well done, but that's just my opinion. That would probably be it. I can't think of too many right now that aren't really, really well known, because the 80s was kind of a way to spark everything that happened with the slasher movies. But is what it is. So I hope I answered your question well there. And we go to Noah is safe, and here's a couple good questions. Firstly, he starts up, in my opinion, the US and IC title championships are booked terribly, and I agree. They are booked absolutely horrendously and have been for the last couple years, which is really sad because they shouldn't be booked all that badly, but whatever. Anyway, I digress. How would you repair the championships to make them more prestigious? And also he throws the Raw SmackDown tag titles. Okay, Raw SmackDown tag titles first. Fuse them. Fuse them, have one championship defended between Raw and SmackDown. Don't do any of the shit where we're spreading all the teams too goddamn thin, because that's a mistake. That is a really big fucking mistake, because as good a tag teams as they don't have enough depth where you're not going to have the same teams facing off, and I don't think that's a very good idea. So, just slam them together, fuse them, have a unification match, tag teams the team goes between the brands of champions, and defends them, and then eventually you get where it's like, yes, okay, USA and Fox may not like that, as they're going to want their own rosters and everything, are going to want the brand split to actually mean something, which, thank fucking Christ, if they actually do want to make it mean something. But they really need to just unify those. I think at this point, I think both titles are pretty much fucking dead. As for the US and IC title, I go back to saying having open challenges. Open challenges, I think, are the way to go, because whoever the champion is, you could have a heel, say Andrade be a champion or whatever, and it's like Andrade has no competition. He will offer an open challenge or whatever. Zelina would have to say this. Even though Andrade's English is actually getting much better, and I think he's either taking classes, Charlotte's helping him. Charlotte's helping with his, verbal skills and everything. Stop it. You stop being dirty. Only I'm allowed to be dirty like that. But I think that Andrade could be that kind of heel champion where nobody could be, and then eventually you could build up to something where some pay-per-view programs happen and Babyface beats him. Babyface continues the the Intercontinental title open challenge, and same with the US title. Honestly, there's ways to do it. They have so many people, especially with the 24/7 championship bullshit, do open challenges. Just do this. It's a way to spark feuds, have fresh matches. As much as I don't really necessarily care for John Cena, that US Open Challenge in 2015 for a few months was fucking incredible. It was great, and it's exactly what we fucking needed. It's what we need now. I would offer a tag team open challenge as well. After you unify the belts, you have the champion show up or whatever. It's like, oh, we've beaten this team and this team. Let's offer an open challenge. And you bring up a team from NXT, or you have two unlikely guys team up. Bring up Lorcan and Burch at some point, just for a one-off. Only Lorcan and Danny Burch, who are an incredible tag team. The two bald guys, as I call them, but they're a great tag team. Do that kind of stuff. Open challenges all around. I mean, one, it's fresher than, 2 out of 3 falls and all this shit of not having matches happen during the break. That's not the issue, Vince. It's the fact that you're fucking bad at your job. But that's what I would do. Open challenges. And then second question, if Vince came to you and asked you to create a mid-card championship for the women, what would you call it, and who would be your first champion? He said I would call it the Featherweight Championship. That sounds a little bit like an adult shop trinket. And no, D Bronco 78087, I am not going to call it the Sandwich Championship. I could call it that. I could be offensive, but why? Why would I do that? Why would I do any of that? Why would I ever be offensive? In all seriousness, my jokes about everything aside, I would actually have the women have a TV championship. Here's why. Think about it. You want to build something around entertainment and work rate and make the women matter. 10 to 15 minutes, and you have it where a heel will stall or a babyface will try everything they can to beat a heel, and sometimes to continue a program you'll have 1, 2, and then the bell rings right at the 10 or 15 minute time limit. And yeah, it's kind of piggybacking off the whole thing I said with AEW, but that's what I would do. I would create a TV championship for the women. I would have it defended in NXT, or at least on NXT house shows. I would have it defended on Raw. I would have it defended on SmackDown. Main event, I don't mean a dog main event. I don't mean dog anybody that's on there. Nobody gives a shit about main event, even though the women and the men and everybody competing there are killing it. Nobody cares about that show, at least by and large. I always forget it happens, even though I know they tape it before Raw, or at least I believe they do. But with a TV championship, you could tell some good stories. You give it to, and who would it be? Shayna Baszler. Give it to Shayna Baszler. Have Shayna win it. And then, you could have Lacey Evans win it, actually. To be perfectly honest, if you're not going to call it Shayna for a bit, have Lacey Evans win it. Like, if this were going to happen right at SummerSlam, she would be able to bring class to the championship and everything and start off right. And then you get babyface beat her. I don't know, have Dana Brooke beat her. Have Dana Brooke beat her in 4 months, in December. And then you could have Shayna Baszler just fucking mop the floor with her in January, hold it for a number of months, and maybe Dana could win it back at SummerSlam or something like that. A TV championship, and build it on work rate and entertainment. Mix those two together. Give the characters more fleshed out stuff to do. You could have something really matter there. Now, it would have to go between two brands. Do not create a Raw TV and a SmackDown TV championship. A women's mid-card title that goes between two brands is the way to go. You want to keep a Raw championship and the SmackDown championship, fine. But this would give the women something to do. Ember, Mandy, Sonya. Sonya would be a great call. And pride shirt, but also the fact that I'm supporting my friends in the LGBTQ community, and I'm going to make sure that I point this out, because if there are any homophobes, any morons that are watching my show, I really don't want you watching. I really don't. Get some tolerance or get the fuck out. Nobody's perfect. You guys sure as fuck aren't either. But anyway, the whole point of a TV championship, though, would be to make sure that it's well established and that a babyface could, show that they could, compete against the best. A heel could use it. Rhea Ripley would be great as a TV champion. Tell me she wouldn't be. She would be absolutely fabulous. You could even have it defended in NXT UK. That'd be on some of the house shows. And I don't know how many house shows they run, but I'd be all for that. You take it across all of the 3 or 4 brands, whatever you call it, Raw, SmackDown, NXT UK, and defend it among there. It's going to make the title more prestigious. And it would actually make things matter more, and go to some of the UK promotions that they have cross promotion with. Same with Evolve, that kind of stuff. A TV championship, I think, would be perfect. And we go to Farron's 53 with a few questions here. And actually, I think this and the next person with the questions is going to be the last one. That way I don't let the show drag and go to like 37 minutes where I got to rush through everything and get to the end. So anyway, Farron's 53 with a few questions. Who will have a better WWE career, Jordan Miles, ACH, or Strickland? And I know that you were asking about, like, Strickland and ACH. I mean, their new names are, it is what it is. I think that they will work out just fine. But I know that you asked about ACH and Strickland, so I'm just going to stick to those guys. If you asked about anybody else, I do apologize. I have horrible handwriting. Strickland, because he can talk. ACH is very good in the ring. As far as verbal skills, I don't know how good he is at talking. I don't know how well he can present himself. I've seen enough of his stuff in New Japan. He's very entertaining, and he's very skilled. Him and Apollo Crews as a tag team would be absolutely incredible. They'd be somewhat similar, even though ACH is just slightly more athletic. I think both have enough charisma that if they're allowed to bring that out, they could do some really good shit. Strickland, because he can talk. Strickland is very, very good in the ring, but also he is very, very good. There's a reason why he goes by Swerve Confident on Twitter. He is incredible on the mic and can get his point across very, very well. Now, I'm not saying ACH can't talk, but I haven't seen enough examples to believe that he's going to do better than Strickland. So I'll say Strickland, though I'm not confident either guy is going to really be used as anything more than, like, say, an Apollo Crews role, which is really sad given how talented they are. And also, hand up, I forgot that ACH even signed with WWE. And I feel bad saying that, because I love ACH. I loved him in New Japan. Loved him when he was in Ring of Honor. And I wish him nothing but the best. But Strickland for sure, because wrestling ability and promos. And then we get to question number 2. Who in NXT can you see being a future WWE champion? If they're smart, Adam Cole, Bay, and Velveteen Dream. Keith Lee also. I could see Keith Lee being a future WWE champion if I were being smart. And if, WWE was being smart. But unfortunately, probably between those, I'd say Adam Cole, Bay. Yes, channeling Droopy saying that. That'd be hilarious to hear the guy voicing Droopy, who's probably dead by now, so I feel bad, saying the Adam Cole stuff. But anyway, I'd say Adam Cole. I can't think of who else they would be pushing. Yes, you could say Matt Riddle. I mean, Matt Riddle probably will be, maybe, unless he keeps pissing off a whole bunch of, the veterans and everything, which I think the whole thing with Goldberg might have been a bit of a work. Might have been just a bit of a work. Please, for the love of God, do not give us Matt Riddle versus Goldberg. I do not need to see that. But Cole, Velveteen, if they're smart. Gargano, I just don't see it. Ciampa, even if he isn't on borrowed time, I don't see it. Cole out of that. Velveteen for sure. I would love to see that. Riddle, yes. Keith Lee, if they're smart. There's a loaded roster in NXT, but those are the ones I can think of really off the top of my head. If we're going on work rate, Roderick Strong could be a great champion, but promos are going to get in his way, and also he needs to probably help his wife not be so goddamn motherfucking awful in the ring. How are Duke and Shafir still so fucking awful? Christ, I hope Marina Shafir is a better mother than she is a wrestler, because she is rotten in the ring. Yeah, it's a bit harsh. I'm sorry. I'm not saying it's easy, but both of them are terrible. So, that's a bit dark. Question number 3. Let's see. Long term, when would you pull the trigger on Andrade babyface turn to make him a top star? Easy. You have Alistair and him feud. After Alistair has gotten some wins and everything, you have Alistair and Andrade have a series. Best of 5. Best of 5 series. Looks like Andrade, or best 5, best 7, something like that. Because you can make that work. They can make that work. They made a great program work, very short term or whatever, but they made it work in NXT. Let them turn them loose. Raw, SmackDown, it'd obviously be SmackDown, but have them do that. Have them have one or two. Have them have one on a pay-per-view. Have them have another on a pay-per-view. Stretch it out where after 3 months, or 2 months, big pay-per-view. And it looks like Andrade's about to win everything. And Zelina, because she's married to Alistair, aligns with Alistair. And Andrade loses his mouthpiece. Stop that. Once again, I run a clean show. You do that and you have Andrade be like, I never needed you. Or Zelina could screw up, cause the whole thing. Aleister could win. Andrade could be like, I never needed you. Aleister comes out, Black Mass to the face. That cements the face turn. And then Zelina aligns with Aleister Black. I would have it where Zelina ends up screwing over Andrade. And then you have a program where Aleister eventually will lose to Andrade, which will cement the face turn. And Aleister could take a loss by that point. And it would then cement Andrade as a top babyface, which I think he's a better heel, but I think fans want to cheer him. And I think they would cheer him. And I think him as a babyface champion, Intercontinental or WWE, could work. But that's how I would do it. It would all start with Aleister, and it would have Aleister and Zelina end up aligned because husband and wife. And also, I think they could have some really good chemistry. And I mean on-screen chemistry. I don't mean in the bedroom. This show's gone off the fucking rails. Anyway, question number 4. And this is a really detailed one. I'll try to be as detailed but as quick as possible. How would you pull up a good face turn? Heel turns are easy to write. Just attack someone. Just have them attack someone well-liked. But how do you get fans to support someone they've spent years hating? What face turn is the best one historically? Loaded question, I know. Heel turns aren't as easy to write as you think. Sure, you could have a guy attack somebody, but without the right reasons, people aren't necessarily going to buy into it. It's like Gargano's heel turn. Oh, he attacked Aleister because he wanted to be the one to beat Ciampa, and this guy it didn't really work. Now, it got a pop, but it did damage Gargano in the long term. Heel turns aren't always easy to write. Now, some can pull off being a heel better. Joe, Owens. I think Dolph Ziggler is a much better heel than he is a babyface, my personal opinion. But as for how you turn a bad guy good, you gotta let the fans do it. You gotta let the fans do it. Let the fans dictate who they finally want to cheer. Like Rusev. Rusev got organically turned babyface. And then they tried to turn him heel, and the fans were still cheering him. And then the Rusev Day thing and everything. Why do they hate Rusev is really the main point of what I'm coming up with here. Why do they hate Rusev? I don't fucking get it. Rusev is goddamn awesome and should be used better. And if him and Lana leave, hopefully he'll be used better somewhere else. I don't know if he will, whatever. But he is somebody that the fans turn babyface. Same with Miz. Miz was starting to get some face reactions even a year and a half ago. And eventually kind of organically morphed to where he was getting the face reactions, and he finally did. And yeah, the Crown Jewel thing, best in the world. And then months after that, and the whole thing with Shane, they wanted to cheer Miz. They got to where they were cheering Miz. Now they're still cheering Miz. Miz has gained some big reactions. His babyface character is beating the fucking powder because they don't know how to book babyfaces because they're fucking idiots. But the best babyface run... Punk's one of the best. Punk or Randy Savage. I would almost say Randy Savage because Randy Savage is a pretty good babyface turn from being a heel in 87 and then in 88 when he became a babyface. I would have said Luger, but no, Bret Hart. Bret Hart was a pretty good one. I mean, he was kind of one they'd already decided. Like, I mean, the Hart Foundation were faces, so I guess really maybe that one doesn't quite work. But Punk for the modern age. Rusev would be a good one, but they cut the legs out from under him. I mean, they cut the legs out from under Punk also, but he was a pretty damn good babyface. It was like, well, you're trying to get us a heel up on the guy, and it's not going to work. We're going to cheer him. This is our guy. Those would be the kind that I could think of, but it's easier. It's easier to turn a person from heel to face, somebody that is absolutely hated, if you let the crowd do it. If you present them as being a little vulnerable, and where you don't tweak too much of them, but you do it over time and everything, little subtle things, and then eventually, if the fans dictate that they want you to turn them babyface or turn that person babyface, then do it, but don't change a ton about them, and then you can actually make it work. As long as it's an extension of that character or of that person, it's going to work. At least that's my opinion. Now, I hope I answered that as best as I could. But that's really the only ways I can come up with it. That's the way you do it. You give a heel a reason where he just can't stand it anymore, and he's going to fight on the side of good. As far as a heel turn, sometimes, unless you have the right motives, you flip somebody heel. it might get a pop at first and then the fans won't care. Come up with legit reasons for both sides to switch, and there you go. And last couple questions from AJT800. How do you feel about eliminating heel authority figures in WWE, general managers, owners, and just keep them neutral and only having heels, baby faces be, the wrestlers and, be themselves? Would that improve the product? You're saying basically would neutral authority figures and just the face and heel dynamic for the wrestlers improve the product? Yeah, it kind of would. Jack Tunney was a great neutral authority figure. Sometimes face heel authority figures work, and sometimes they don't. I think Jack Tunney was a great example of one that worked. Jim Crockett, he was never all that good. Sometimes the authority figure stuff can work. Jim Cornette was a good one in TNA when he was there briefly. Matchmakers and this kind of stuff and not siding with one person and just being straight down the middle is the way to go. Otherwise, it gets towards bogged down everything, and it's more about the authority figure than it is about the wrestlers. Focus on the wrestlers, make it a neutral party, and just do that. And yeah, I think that actually would improve the product immensely. Have, like Paige. Paige was a great general manager and was right down the middle. Yeah, she'd show a little bit of favoritism, but she'd want to show, like, hey, the baby faces deserve this, or, well, the heels do have a point. You did cheat, you did do this, let's do this. Having neutral authority figures is actually the way to go, and it wouldn't make the product any worse than it is now. Let's be honest about that. And final question, this is going to be the last one, obviously, hence final question. He asked about Batmobiles, ranked worst to best. I like the Adam West one. That one was pretty good. The Michael Keaton one was enjoyable. Very classic. The Batman animated series from 92 to whatever was really cool. Worst ones, I can't really think of any. I mean, maybe the Joel Schumacher ones. They were kind of lame. They were kind of silly, but then again, Joel Schumacher movies are kind of silly. The Christian Bale ones I enjoyed. Ben Affleck I didn't really care for all that much. The Ben Affleck ones. I'm sorry if I didn't really answer it all that well, but I can't think of too many. Like it didn't really appeal to me. Like I never really thought that the car was like a big selling point there. I mean, it looks cool and everything. The Batmobile is very iconic, but as far as movies, none of them really offended me, maybe with the exception like of the Joel Schumacher ones, but that's probably because, especially Batman and Robin was absolute shit. But anyway, I hope I answered those questions really, really good. So thank you guys. Sorry if there were loud booms and everything, but agree, disagree with what I said. Like, share, subscribe, Twitter handle in the description. I'm John Ritlin. I will see you soon.